I'm Shruti Kadikula. And I'm Jyoti Kodukula. We will be singing Shanta Bhujanga. Subhaksho Jakumbam Sudapurna Kumbam Prasadavalam Prapunyavalam Sada Sendubimbam Sada Noshtabimbam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Katakshe Dayatram Kare Jnanamudram Kalabhe Vinidram Kalapai Subhadram Purastri Vinidram Purastungabhadram Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Lalaman Kapalam Dasaganadolam Swabhaktei Kapalam Yashashri Kapolam Kare Tvakshamalam Ganapragnadolam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Susimantavenim Drushanirjitainim Ramatkiravanim Namadvajrapanim Sudamantarasyaam Mudachintyavenim Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Sushantam Sudeham Drugante Khachantam Lasasatangim Anantam Achintyam Smaretapasai Sangapurvastitantam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Kurange Turange Mrugendre Khagendre Marale Madepe Mahokshe Girudam Mahatyam Navamyam Sada Samarupam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Jwalatkanti Vannim Jaganmohanangim Bhaje Manasambhoja Supranta Bringim Nijastotra Sangita Nitya Prabhangim Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Papambojanendraja Sampurjamanam Lasanmandahasa Prabhavakrachinam Chalachanchalacharutatangakakarnam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Bhaje Sharadambam Ajasram Madambam Hari Om.
ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಎನ್ನ ನಾಲಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಬಾರದೆ ಎನ್ನ ನಾಲಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಬಾರದೆ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯಿ ನೀರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯಿ ನೀರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಅಕ್ಷರ ಅಕ್ಷರ ವಿವೇಕವ ನಿನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಷರ ಅಕ್ಷರ ವಿವೇಕವ ನಿನ್ನ ಕುಕ್ಷಿಯೋ ಶೃಂಗಾರಪುರ ನೆಲೆ ವಾಸಿನಿ ದೇವಿ ಶೃಂಗಾರಪುರ ನೆಲೆ ವಾಸಿನಿ ದೇವಿ ಸಂಗೀತ ಗಾನ ವಿಲಾಸಿನಿ ಸಂಗೀತ ಗಾನ ವಿಲಾಸಿನಿ ಮಂಗಲ ಗಾತ್ರಲೆ ಬಲಿರೆ ಭ್ರಮಣ ರಾಣಿ ಮಂಗಲ ಗಾತ್ರಲೆ ಬಲಿರೆ ಭ್ರಮಣ ರಾಣಿ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯೇ ನಿರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯೇ ನಿರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಸರ್ವಾಲಂಕಾರ ದಯಾಮೂರುತಿ ಸರ್ವಾಲಂಕಾರ ದಯಾಮೂರುತಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಣವಾ ಸ್ತುತಿಸುವೆ ಕಿರುತಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಣವಾ ಸ್ತುತಿಸುವೆ ಕಿರುತಿ ಗುರುಮೂರ್ತಿ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಸ್ತುತಿಸುವೆ ಗುರುಮೂರ್ತಿ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಸ್ತುತಿಸುವೆ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯಿ ನಿರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀಲಲೋಚನ ತಾಯಿ ನಿರುತ ನಂಬಿದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶಾರದೆ ಶಾರದೆ.
राजराजेश्वरी पराशक्ति उमा कल्याणकरी देवी समष्टिपरा परिवार सुपालिनी व्यष्टि सदा दुर्गा वरदा भयनाशिनी मां मम तामसहारिणि पालय माम् सदा स्वार्थस्य सिद्धित्वया कृपया परिपूर्णपरार्थप्रसादकरी मनमोहिनि कामिनि लादकरी दुरदृष्टविनाशिनि भाग्यमये इहलौकिकज्ञानप्रदायिनि मा अलौकिकविद्याप्रदर्शि जय हे शुभलक्ष्मीमयी जय हे श्रुतिसारमयी जय हे जगदात्ममयी जय हे शिवशक्तिमयी जय हे शुभलक्ष्मीमयी जय हे श्रुतिसारमयी जय हे जगदात्ममयी।
Today, the discourse will be presented by Srimati Lakshmi Sukumarji. Srimati Lakshmi Sukumar was instrumental in setting up Chinmaya Mission San Diego in 2001. She started teaching Balavihar and studying Vedanta in 1988 while in San Jose. At CMSD, she oversees the programs for adults, youth, and children. She teaches adult Bhagavad Gita classes on Sundays, leads study groups and Devi groups for adults throughout the week, and teaches Samskrita Vihar classes on Saturdays. She also conducts Chinmaya Dhvani and Chinmaya Swaranjali youth and adult choirs. Besides training Balavihar teachers at many centers within the mission throughout the US and Canada, she also conducts Hinduism workshops for school teachers, interfaith communities, and other interested groups, and makes presentation at local schools as needed. She also conducts workshops on various topics for adults and youth. She has compiled several books for Balavihar and adults, such as Chinmaya Book of Hymns, Chinmaya Book of Vedic Chants, and Chinmaya Book of Ashtotaras and Aratis. She has taught at Chinmaya family and youth camps throughout the US and has organized family camps in San Diego. She was inspired and blessed by Swamini Sharada Priyananda Amma to hold Devi group classes at her home while in San Jose. Hari Om. Please welcome Srimati Lakshmi Sukumarji.
Hari Om and pronouns to all, Pujya Swami Shantananji, Swami Dhirananji, Vilasiniji, all the organizers, all the Devis, the families, and all the guests that are joining today. It is indeed a privilege to talk a few words of what I've understood during this auspicious festival. I asked Deepaji about what topic I should focus on. She said, whatever I would like. In San Diego, I've been conducting Stri Shakti workshops for our members for the past 10 years during Navratri time. So I'll just share some thoughts from that. Let's start. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Satgurave Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Samstita. Namastasyai, 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Samstita. Namastasyai, 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 Namo Namaha. In our Vedic tradition, we celebrate many festivals surrounding the god forms. And this Navratri is certainly a very unique opportunity to celebrate the divine from his aspect of his power, the Shakti as the Divine Mother. This is very unique to our Hindu religion to celebrate God as Mother. By doing so, Hinduism offers a unique reverence to womanhood itself. In all her grace and power and glory and dignity, Mother Goddess is celebrated. And in Mother, we see that infinite love, that is Devi. We worship her as Devi. We all know what Mother's love is like. In a very casual way, Mother can persuade with all her love to go the right path, prevent us from going the wrong path. And with her simple but profound teachings, without logic and reason, she can provide wisdom. I still remember some of the simple words my mother spoke when I was young. Now that I study Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita, I realize how profound they were. Now, this idea of celebrating power as a feminine principle, there is a Western author that speaks about it very beautifully. I'll just read that. While it may have been the tradition in the West to naturally equate power to the masculine, power with the masculine, this is not a universally held outlook. One worldview which offers us a fresh and radically different approach to the issue of power and the feminine is found in the philosophy and culture of Hinduism, specifically in the concept of Shakti. Because within the metaphysical framework of Shakti, we discover the concept of the feminine as being the very manifestation of power itself. It's beautifully said at Hinduism as a liberating force for women, he says. Now, this Shakti, the word Shakti, comes from the root shak, to be able, to do, to act. This Shakti is seen in all of nature. It means power or energy. Now, while it is seen in all aspects of nature, particularly, we see that in the human beings as the power of intelligence, the buddhi, as compassion, as daya, and also as power of devotion, bhakti, besides many other manifestations. So, this Shakti, this power, cannot be separate from the wielder of power, the Shaktiman and Shakti. This concept of Purusha and Prakriti is discussed beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita. And this Shakti is the power that belongs to the powerful, the Shaktiman, the wielder of power. They are inseparable. Together, the able and the ability, the powerful and the power. So while the one who wields the power is the one who gives purpose and direction to this power, but the power itself makes us able to perform so many great things. So here it is the one with two sides, this powerful and power. So that's why we always say the God and Goddess as together, as the consorts, as Sita Rama or Lakshmi Narayana or this Parvati Parameshwara, in all those ways. Now, this Shakti, referred to as Maya, it's the inscrutable, inexplicable, anirvachaniya Shakti of that Brahma, Brahmashaya Trigunatmika Mayavi. No? This divine power, it's inseparable from Brahman. It can make the impossible possible. Agatita Gatana Patiyasi Maya, it is said. And it's impossible to fathom. We can't, recognize or understand why. But it has great power of deluding. It can veil the truth and show something that is not. Yama Samaya, that which is not, it can show. And this power is infinite. It can make us or break us depending on how we access that. So this infinite Brahma, wedded to Maya, then arises the God principle, Ishvara, with the three functions of creation, preservation, and destruction. So these three functions of that God principle, Ishvara, are then personified as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, as we know. Now, in order to create, Brahmaji needs knowledge. Creation needs knowledge. So, his consort is the power of Jnana, Saraswati Devi. In order to preserve, sustain, Lord Vishnu needs wealth, and that is represented by Lakshmi Devi. That Shakti itself is personified as Lakshmi Devi. And destruction, the constructive destruction that Lord Shiva represents, then is helped by the power of Durga Devi, the power of action. So, these three powers now that are used in this creation then represent the Jnana Shakti, the power to know, the Ichha Shakti, power to will, and then Kriya Shakti, that is the power to act, power of action. So these three are represented by the three goddesses, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Durga Devi. Now they also map into the three gunas. Now, Sattva guna represents purity. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. Therefore, that jnana shakti represents the Sattva guna. Rajoguna is passion attached to action, so that is power of Lakshmi Devi. And then this Tamoguna, where ignorance or pramada, inadvertence, laziness, sleep, that has to be overcome only through power of Durga Devi. Now let me go a little bit into each of the Devis, what they represent and their teachings. As we know, Saraswati Devi, the consort of Brahmaji, the creator, she is clad in white. She has my back today. In white, representing that purity, because Sattva Guna itself is represented by white color. And she's seated on a lotus, very stable, firm, holding a beautiful veena. This veena is a very sophisticated and melodious ancient stringed instrument. Now this veena, her Saraswati Devi holding that, represents the refinement of speech that we must cultivate. She has a japamala for concentration of mind, the Vedas, the source of all knowledge, and she has two vehicles, the Hamsa Pakshi and the peacock. Hamsa Pakshi, of course, represents Viveka, we know. The peacock is lust-free and it represents removal of all negativities, because peacocks eat snakes and scorpions. So, the removal of negativities. Now, one other explanation I've heard is the peacock with its beautiful plumes also represents worldly achievement, whereas the Hamsa Pakshi represents our achievement in the spiritual realm. Now, what is the main teaching of Saraswati Devi? That our knowledge and speech must be only used to discover the truth. Because it's only through speech that we get knowledge. So our speech must be highly refined. She is Vagdevi. Speech should not be used as a weapon. As speech must be cultivated to a high level of sophistication. See, we have this japa, practice of japa in many religions, all religions. Through japa, we develop that Vak Shuddhi, so Vak Devi is able to come and reside in our tongue. So it's very important teaching of Saraswati is this. The truth should be spoken. We know Satyam Vada, Hitam Vada, Priyam Vada, Mitam Vada, all those, that it should be spoken only if it's beneficial, in a pleasant way. If it is not beneficial, it should not be spoken. And lie should not be spoken even pleasingly, or lie should be spoken sometimes if it is beneficial to the other person. That is also. Most importantly, unnecessary talk and gossip should be given up so that the sattva guna is preserved for jnana to take place. The Ichcha Shakti, the power to will, power of desire, is represented by Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi, the sustainer god, she represents wealth, because to sustain ourselves in this world, we need wealth. She's clad in pink and gold and all glitter like a queen, and she's standing precariously on that lotus. And with the gold coins flowing down from her hand, she represents that wealth is meant for giving away. That's why we start our day with Karagre Vasate Lakshmi. We work in the world and earn money only to give away. That is the main teaching of Lakshmi Devi. And we see the two elephants serving her, that Ichcha Shakti itself worshipping Mother Lakshmi. Her vehicle is the owl, teaching us that we should not get carried away with wealth. It can be blinding if we go after wealth alone. And we have to be vigilant. And the main teaching has said that wealth in our dharma is not condemned, only the greed for it. Muda jahihi dhana agama trishna. So give it away or you will lose it. So Lakshmi Devi is considered chanchala. She doesn't stay where she is possessed. She doesn't like to be possessed. But she is ever there at the feet of Sri Narayana, showing us that all wealth is meant for the fulfillment of dharma. When we are ready to serve the Lord, she will become our servant. And our Gurudev used to talk about that so many times, that he says he's serving Narayana and she's knocking at the door wanting to come in. And I used to tell her, I'm a sannyasi, you cannot come in. So very beautifully he would say, bring this message to us. Our Guruji used to say a beautiful quotation. Before saying that, let me tell you, normally we give up some important work because we say, I don't have the means, I don't have the resources. But Pujya Guruji would say, find purpose, means will follow. This is exactly what Lakshmi Devi is doing, showing us, seated at the feet of Sri Narayana, said, you find purpose in life, that your life is meant for, Madhava Seva. So then I will serve you. It's a beautiful message here by Lakshmi Devi. Now, we talked about wealth. In the material world, to sustain ourselves, we need material wealth, material resources. But in spiritual life, she represents all the Shat Sampatti, Shamadamadi, So the spiritual seeker is equipped with the right kind of wealth to attain that fulfillment. Coming to Durga Devi, she represents that Kriya Shakti, power of action. Now we see her clad in red, bright, Rajas. Now she is the consort of the destroyer god. Destruction needs a lot of power, action. And she's seated on a tiger or a lion, which represents unlimited power she has. And she has many arms. We all know the legend of Mahishasura Mardini, how so many gods equipped her with so many weapons. So she's the combined force of so many divine forces, combined power. And she has countless weapons because depending on the enemy, a particular weapon is needed. So she has multiple weapons. And she can manifest in any form to fight the asuras. So, now we also worship Mother Durga in her other forms as Kali. As Kali, she represents Kala or time, which is all devouring, doesn't wait for anyone. It says, Yama has no lajja, it says, you come anytime. And she represents that time. She represents the dissolution of the universe and also what is beyond. And then we see Kali standing on the body of Lord Shiva. That shows the Shakti that play of consciousness can only happen on the substratum of the divine. And we are all familiar with the very pleasant form of Parvati Devi as the divine consort of Lord Shiva with her two children, Ganesha and Muruga or Skanda. Now they represent the perfect family because each of them has a different vehicle. If we look at that, they are natural enemies, those vehicles. The peacock and the rat and the bull and the tiger. They coexist because of the deep abiding love. They can overcome all that with that. Now let's see what the teachings of Mother Durga are very quickly. Durga itself means Durgati, that she is one who is very difficult to know, very difficult to comprehend because she is the combined force of all the divine forces. Yet, if we supplicate, she is the divine mother, ever, ready to bless us. Now, I want to read the writing by Gurudev himself. Puja Gurudev says, Mother Durga is the power terrible. The greatest enemies in man's bosom, such as selfishness, jealousy, hatred, and greed, which loot his inner peace and bliss, have to be totally annihilated for man to reach the abode of everlasting happiness. There is no room for persuasion or softness in dealing with these enemies of man. They have to be ruthlessly struck and destroyed. By worshipping Durga, this idea of ruthless destruction is invoked to annihilate all the desires and unfold divinity. So now we looked at these three powers or three Shaktis from the point of creation. Now in the Navaratri festival, the 9 nights, we worship these three Shakti only, these three powers in the other order, because we are so full of Tamoguna. Without overcoming Tamoguna, we cannot do anything. So the first 3 nights, we worship Mother Durga, Mother Terrible, to get rid of all our Asuri Sampatti. The Mahishasura in us starts with the difficulty in getting up in the morning, laziness. So, the first 3 days for getting rid of our Tamoguna with the help of Durga Devi. She has all the weapons for the different enemies we have inside, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all of that. The second 3 nights we invoke Lakshmi Devi. See, before going there, we always sing, no, Jagadodharini Mata Durga, and we translate it also, it's a wake up mother. We have to invoke her in our own bosom. That is what we are singing. And the second 3 nights, now that a person has woken up, ready to do something. Now, the Daivi Sampatti, the noble qualities in us, are invoked through worship of Lakshmi Devi. Then, with the Tamoguna overcome by Rajoguna, now the Rajoguna is overcome by Sattvaguna. The last 3 nights, we invoke Saraswati Devi, the Jnana Shakti, to bless us with that knowledge, so we can celebrate victory of our mind on the 10th day as Vijayadashami, with this victory over the 10-headed Ravana, with none other than our ego. So that is why it is called Dashara. Dashara actually comes from Dasha Papahara. The Papa happens through these 10 sense organs. So that is the true victory. Now we see that a sleeping person has to be woken up. It is not very easy. So Durga Devi has lots of weapons. Once a person is woken up, we can talk softly. Now we can interact. Now Lakshmi Devi has a thing, only one weapon. Once in a while we see her with a chakra, in case any of those old ones come up. It's no different from cultivating the ground, our garden, preparing our garden for planting flowers. So the ground has to be prepared, tilled, and then only we can sow the flowers. So Lakshmi Devi shines out the Daivi Sampatti in us, so that Jnana can take place. That is the worship of Saraswati Devi. So now, see, this festival itself means Utsava. The word for that in Sanskrita is Utsava. See, Ut means upward. These festivals are very auspicious times for us to get an upward thrust in our path to the truth, in our sadhana. So, remembering this and, through this worship, invoking the right Shakti. Right powers should be invoked at the right time, at the right place. And that is how we evolve. And this is, in the Gita, Bhagavan said, Uddared Atmanatmana. Lift yourself by yourself. These 3 powers are in every one of us, and it's up to us to invoke them. Now, I'm watching time, so I'll touch on a few things. There are different manifestations of Devi. She comes as the cosmic force, or as a Varada, one who blesses, gives boons. And a very important aspect of Devi that dear to us is when she comes as the heroine, as our beloved, comes down to earth and provides great inspiring role models for us. She is also worshipped as Grama Devata and some spirits, and most importantly, the great saints, the women saints that India has produced. Now, the qualities of Devi that we adore and admire as a heroine are, we see many of them, they could do such sacrifices. They sacrificed themselves, and they committed to the commitment to moral obligation, moral duties. They also portrayed such courage and outspokenness too, sometimes as necessary, and the disregard for social norms in the overwhelming love for the Lord. We see Mirabai in her times. She did things that women could not imagine. And today we worship her. How attractive that power, Sri Shakti, is. And Sita and Draupadi, We all know. I'll touch on that in a moment. And then Radha, is the soul yearning for that love of Krishna. All are great inspiration for us. Now, we also have many women saints in India. Some of them, Maitri, the wife of Yajnavalkya Rishi, is well known. Avayar, we have, Andal and Mirabai, to just name a few. Historically, we see the power of women in India. Ancient India, it was very evident in Sita Devi. Look at the power of Sita Devi. This is so amazing. She is stuck in Ashokavana. She's sitting there, and Ravana approaches her, and this a person who has conquered all three worlds and made the gods homeless, Sita Devi can pick one blade of grass and say, Trinamantarat Kurtva, with this blade of grass, she can almost invoke Brahmastra. He can't touch her. Such is the power of that, Shakti, that's the Shakti. And Draupadi, we know, humiliation of Draupadi, the end of Kauravas was inevitable. So, and Kannagi in Shilapati Karam is a famous story. And so there are some great women of the past that we can draw inspiration from. And there are many rishis. The Vedic hymns are also attributed to some women. And in the olden times, they also received the sacred dead and did sacrifices alongside men. There are many subhashitas quoting the importance of regarding women as the Griha Lakshmi, as the very symbol of prosperity. They said, yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devataha. Where women are worshipped, in that home gods live. When women are not respected, all attempts lead to failure. They become fruitless. And I remember Mahatma Gandhiji himself has said, a civilization can be judged by the treatment meted out to its women. There are many other subhashitas, but for want of time, I won't read. And in conclusion, I just want to bring these thoughts. There is constant struggle for the male and the female to balance their energies, come together. And we know, we have heard that some qualities are considered masculine, some are considered feminine. Right brain and left brain, we have heard. I'll just read a few, just so we can have reference to the discussion. Typically, the masculine qualities are listed as doing, aggression, analytical, concrete, impatient, striving, rushing, assertive, thrusting, organizing, logical, busy, hard, controlling. And the feminine qualities are listed as something as being, surrender, intuitive, abstract, patient, tranquil, nurturing, receptive, receiving, synthesizing, creative, calm, soft, allowing. So we've heard of these. Now, in our scriptures provide a beautiful picture of the two together in harmony. And this we see as Shiva Shakti in the Shiva and Parvati united in the Ardhanarishwara form of the Lord, showing that they both represent the divine. It is said Lord Shiva made Parvati Devi his ornament by making her half his body. Now, it is said when the man's stritvam or femininity and the woman's Purushatvam or masculinity are both recognized and expressed, then there is Purnatvam. In this context, I remember the beautiful advice our Puja Gurudev has given to couples, man and woman. Do not compete with each other, complete each other. What a beautiful thing he said. So, it is not this versus that. Now, it is said, what is the problem in today's world? So much war and aggression, violence, and depression and illness. What is lacking? And great thinkers say it is the divine feminine energy that is the missing element. And what is this divine feminine energy? See, this Stri Shakti or this feminine love is very compassionate, benevolent, nurturing, and it can connect with others. I tell you, in this context, I'm only reminded of Swami Dhirananji, what he used to tell. You teach a man, he learns. You teach a woman, the whole family learns. Nay, the whole community learns, he will say. Isn't that true? And so the real feminine energy has that ability to understand deeply the concerns of others, not only of one's family, but that of all beings, of animals, birds, humans, everyone, even plants. That deep empathy is characteristic of that feminine energy. So now, it is said in our scriptures that what is true out there in the macrocosm is true in the microcosm. And the scriptures say that Shakti is present in this creation as our mothers and daughters and sisters and wives. It is easily available in all the female, in women. But the important thing is, it is also present in men. See, the word Stri is a Satara. Sattva, Tama, Rajas, the three gunas are put together is three. So who is beyond that? I am reminded of that incident when Mirabai went to Vrindavan and, this Jiva Goswami refused to meet with her because she is a Stri. Then she says, oh, I didn't know there is a second Purusha in Vrindavan. I thought the only Purusha here is that Krishna. And he realized his mistake and, came down to meet her. But the point is, everyone is a Stri longing to find that unity with that Shaktiman, the Purusha. And this is what is portrayed in the Bharatanatyam dances, the heroine, portrayed as the Jivatma, longing for that Lord. So what is interesting is, these feminine qualities, it is precisely these that we all, aspire for in our spiritual life, man or woman. I'll read something very beautiful. Even in those men who obtained high divine experience and have sought to express for humanity a heart of love, we find something distinctively feminine. Christ, in his tenderness, in his love, is more a woman than a man. So is Buddha in his compassion and love for all creatures. We say Acharya Vinobha Bhavenu. Bha means mother. He was called mother. And I've also read many statements where they said Mother Bapu about Gandhiji. And our own Gurudev. I've heard from so many, from Guruji, from Shantananji, from Surupananji, and also seen to some extent. On the platform, we see the Father in him evident as he roars the teaching of the scriptures. Off the platform is a mother. The tenderness, Pratana. So it is these qualities that everyone aspires for in our spiritual life. So I found something beautiful written about the simple greatness of women. I think you will appreciate that. Let me read that. To turn common things into items of beauty, to pour grace into the style of service, to be calm when the circumstance calls for the play of anger, to be patient where the occasion demands impatience, to be long suffering where a quick reaction seems to achieve the end in view, to be kind, helpful, generous, artistic, angelic, graceful, devotional, to bend feeling into an attitude of adoration given to a high elevating presence. These are constitutional, natural, intrinsic with and characteristic of women. Nature has richly endowed them to make of homes fields of happiness, growth, inner spiritual unfoldment, and little paradises in their own rights, writes Swami Omkarananda. So I'm watching time. I shall conclude with the words of Pujya Gurudev, what he said at the inauguration of the first ever Devi group in Chennai. Salutations to mothers. I need not mention how happy I am that a Devi section of Chinmaya Mission is being inaugurated on this sacred day. Indeed, women have been and even today are the real custodians of our country's spiritual culture. The fall of our cultural standard is a true measure of the growing ignorance in the mothers of our society. So, invoking Divine Mother's grace and Puja Gurudev's blessings, that we all discover the Devi in us and manifest the Shakti within, I close this. Hari.
Hari Om. My pranams to you, Lakshmi Sukumarji. Thank you so much for your very inspiring talk on the third day of our Navratri 2020 virtual retreat hosted by Chinmaya Mission Washington Regional Chapter. You reminded us of the power of women, and there could be no better time to do that than during the Navratri celebrations when we are worshiping the Supreme in the form of Shakti. Beautiful message in find purpose, means will follow. We're so grateful to you for your presence with us this evening. We have a couple of questions that we will address. They have come through chat, and I'm going to read them out for you. The first question I have is, you have beautifully explained Ichha Shakti. Can you please give us an example of Gurudev's life for the quote, find purpose, means will follow?
Puja Guruji said that. I heard it from the mouth of Puja Guruji. I'm sure Gurudev has mentioned that idea, but
Okay.
I heard it from him. I can give you a perfect example. Here in San Diego, we were in the process of having an ashram built. We had the land, and of course, as every other center, we are looking for funds. And when Puja Guruji was here to do some blessing of the bricks ceremony before the construction began, he gave this message. He said, is this a noble project? Is the intention of all those who are working on this, is it noble and sattvic? Is it pure? Is there a need in the society? He said, if all these are true, you will get the funds, and I will be there to inaugurate. Such instances
so true.
we have not seen in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen so many examples like this, I guess, about Gurudev. So the second question I have over here is from Akhila Vitala. And her question is, how does one handle challenges in balancing home and profession? So we can get a reference when we think, what would wise people do in this situation?
As I have understood the teachings of our scriptures and from Puja Guruji, our problem is we separate them. The purpose has to be only one, and that has to be spiritual. If we compartmentalize our life as, adhyatmic and bhautik, materialistic and spiritual, there is always going to be a struggle. Whether we are working out there for a paycheck or we are, housewives taking care of matters at home, we should be clear in all of them, I am serving the Lord and the paycheck must be incidental because it's a necessity. We need that. For in many cases, both people have to work. But we should not compartmentalize our life, the work, whether it is in an office or in the hospital or at home. There is only one goal. This is my seva of the Lord. And in that, we can integrate all these powers. See, it's also, I've heard from Uncle Mani beautifully, we should have goal clarity, role clarity, value clarity. When to invoke Durga power, when to invoke Lakshmi power, when to invoke Saraswati. We have to be clear. I have told the children in Balavihar sometimes, you can, see my parents named me Lakshmi, but you can get a Kali or a Lakshmi or a Saraswati. It all depends on you, as per the demand, So the thing is, often when the child needs to be disciplined, when I need to discipline myself, I justify. I'm soft. No, I have to be hard on my own mind because, no, I did not do that. I should acknowledge and correct and move forward. Take the help of Durga and invoke Lakshmi Devi for the right quality. So I think we confuse these, what is required for what role. That's my...
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for that answer. I'm sure it answered the person's question. There is one more question over here, and maybe this will be the last one. Over years, there has been inequality between Devis and Devas. How did this evolve, and why isn't there an emphasis of this in our Vedas explicitly?
I've heard this is the Kali Yuga Dharma that is going on, but in our mind, we can live in Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga. We can lift ourselves there. I know even the Periyava has said something to the effect that Kali Yuga began when he said stronger words, I will put it mildly, when women started to behave like men, became aggressive and competitive, and you see my paycheck, your paycheck, my account, your account. I've heard this from many saints. Murari Bapuji talks about this, and we have to see how this is playing in the modern times when career became more important than our goal in life. There's nothing wrong in pursuing career. These questions are beautifully answered by Sharda Priyananda Amma. I have her material at home, but she says, you don't have to. See, we have to study the Bhagavatam, we have to study the Ramayana in great detail. In our Devi group, we did 4 or 5 years of every line of Valmiki Ramayana. Now we are doing Ramcharitmanas. So many places, we get the understanding of whatever the role is or whatever dharma is. We recently finished 7th canto in Bhagavatam. There, it gives what is the last part is Manava Dharma. There, Nari Dharma is given. There's no specific dharma. To follow the dharma of the husband, keep the house clean, dress properly, appropriately for the occasion. All these are given. But when we disregard that and live our own way, all these problems are there. But what others do is up to them. But we can stay clear. We should be clear. Then there will be that self-confidence. And that is the reason I really think these Devi groups are very important. You see, even when we see a child as a problem, we say, I look at the mother is okay, child is going to be all right. The very nucleus of the home, they put so much importance, equated that woman to mother, the supreme goddess, as a goddess. Grihini grihamuchyate, it says. A house is made into a home because of the Griha Lakshmi. So how one thinks of oneself, how one views. If you have to go and do work, that's not a problem. Like Sharda Priyanandamma said, you don't have to, but if that is your vasana and you're fulfilling, that's fine. But don't think that is a necessity in life. I was at a Bhiksha when Sharda Priyanandamma was there in San Jose, and the hostess had invited a friend. She was new to mission and all that. So she didn't know really what to ask Amma. She sat, and Amma is so friendly. She would say, what's your name? What do you do? What are your children? Very, very personable. So she went to Amma and said, I am so sad. I don't have a job. And Amma put her, I saw Stree Shakti there. I said, you are complaining, you have plenty to eat, you're worried about status and all that stuff. And she just, if she got the message, she got the message. But I don't know. But the idea is, we have developed certain ideas without seeing what our scriptures say, and then we are trying to solve it through our buddhi. So there are issues there. The scriptures are very clear. Very clear. So, and we have the modern gurus to help us with interpretation of those scriptures in the modern time. But the scriptures are there, the knowledge is eternal.
Thank you so much. I think we have time only for this much. I wish we could just keep hearing you for a longer time, but maybe we'll get another opportunity later to do that. We will now conclude today's program with Devi and Chinmaya Aarti, which will be performed by Sanyogita Sawant and family. Everyone, please join us. And we hope to see you all again tomorrow at 6:50 p.m. for Lalita Sahasranama and another beautiful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहरिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय तू ही सतचित सुखमय शुद्ध ब्रह्म रूपा सत्य सनातन सुंदर कर शिव सुर भूपा माँ जग जननी जय जय अविकारी अगहारी अकल कलाधारी करता विधि भरता हरि हर संहरकारी दश विद्या नव दुर्गा नाना शस्त्र करा अष्ट मात्र का योगिनी नव नव रूप धरा माँ जग जननी जय जय, जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय। भयहरिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय, माँ जग जननी जय जय।
आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, दिव्य रूप मूरति करुणा की, आरति सद्गुरु की। चरणों में उनके शांति समाये, शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए, पाप ताप संताप हरण की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया, धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया, शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। सिद्ध बारिकी तपोभूमि में, नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे, भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की, आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Hari Om. Thank you so much, Lakshmi Amma, and thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. This is the end of our program for today, and we'll see you tomorrow again for Lalita Sahasranama. Hari Om and good night.
Thank you.
Maniji, you can stop recording.